I asked and you delivered. This is going to be a quick and dirty Q&A. I would do it in the garage, but it's cold, so I'll do it out in the office. Let's go. I got probably 20, 25 questions. Some of them are very similar, so I've grouped them together, so this makes more sense. I've kind of ordered them chronologically in life, so we'll go through it in that order. The first pair of questions is, have I always been mechanically minded? / how did I build my confidence in mechanics? So I think those group together. So we need to go back. Before Auto Alex, before my YouTube, before the job I do now, when I was, 22? I did an apprenticeship at Jaguar Land Rover because I had a small interest in cars and I needed some path, some job. I wasn't really sure what I was doing when I was that young, but that's the path I went down. And I kind of just fell into a department that worked for me. So when you do the apprenticeship, they kind of teach you generic everything you need to know, and then what you do with that information depends where you end up, kind of. There's some people that will end up in like servicing the air conditioning units at Jaguar Land Rover, in the buildings, and then there's people that would end up in, the departments that go around the world supporting vehicles, It's just luck of the draw. I don't think it depended on who you were, how you were. It was just out of the hat, I think. But anyway, I digress. I ended up in NVH, which is noise, vibration and harshness, and the benefit of that department was it's a bit of everything. That covers exhausts, engines, intake systems, sound deadening, kind of a bit of everything. So very quickly I learnt how to take cars apart and put them back together again, be it dropping engines because we had things like turbocharger changes and exhaust manifold changes, etc., etc. And then, up to full vehicle builds. So Range Rover would put full acoustic packs in cars to see how they could make it the best it could be. So you'd have to pull literally everything apart, build it up with more sound deadening, more expensive bits, build the car back up again. It was lovely. And then it would go to costing and they go, no, sorry, too expensive, can't have that. And then the final product was a much dumbed down version of that. That's pretty much how vehicle engineering works. It's this is the best it can be, but we're not going to spend that money, fight it out between yourselves. Anyway, and then I was probably there for, a year and a half, and then I ended up in RLD, which is Road Load Data. So that's a department that basically crashes cars for fun. I was very quickly taught advanced driving, test driving. That's kind of where I got my background of vehicle engineering. I used to travel the world. Well, I still do travel the world. Used to spend a lot of time in Belgium, been at the Nürburgring, bits of Spain, Nardo, sometimes over in America. Used to go to not all of them, but quite a few vehicle launches. I used to be responsible for prepping cars for adverts and the silly hill climb things that Range Rover did and all that rubbish. But yeah, I got pulled into RLD because I was very meticulous in the way that I did things. The thing in testing is everything has to be the same. So there's always this thing online, people not using torque wrenches and people impacting things and going, that's tight. In a real world situation, that's probably fine. But in the testing world, everything has to be the same. Literally, down to a tyre pressure, down to a bolt tightness, identical. Because if you're testing something, it's pointless if it's different. So I've kind of gone on a tangent, but that's where my mechanical background started. Was I really enjoy the whole keeping things the same, keeping everything neat. I used to fit vehicles with 300 channels worth of data logging equipment, accelerometers, strain gauges. They measure how much a component stretches or compresses, or under extreme testing. I could go off on a tangent for hours on this. But so yeah, that's where my kind of background came. Because the other question I got was, how long have you been a mechanic? I've never been a mechanic. I've just adapted the mechanical knowledge I gained at Jaguar Land Rover into what you class as mechanics. You just become very good at utilising resources that are given to you and then translating them. That's what mechanics is, really, is finding a part that's broken and either fixing it or replacing it, and then knowing mechanical processes to then fix that. So, knowledge of materials and heat and manipulating the tools you have around you to get the final result. That's kind of a bit wide open, but yeah, that's kind of where the background of my mechanics came from. So that also kind of sums up where the confidence came from. I think, if you do something long enough, you become good at it, in theory. I mean, there's probably people that have been doing things for 30 years that are still shit at it. But if you put the effort in to learn something, you'd hope that you get better at it. So yeah, that's where the confidence comes from, is, I guess, doing a thing a few times and being successful, and then having the confidence that, yes, this is how you fix something. It's hard to think off the top of my head, but for example, building an engine. The first time you build an engine, it's the scariest thing in the world, because if you cock it up, A, you've spent a lot of money doing it, and B, it's a waste of time. It's like, it's a big old job. And the last thing you want to do is that, and then drive a car down the road and bang, whoops, bad thing. But then that goes the complete opposite way to, the first time you service a car, the first time you drop the oil out of a car, that the satisfaction of you've done something correctly. I guess that's where it all kind of comes from. So I've kind of answered those two questions, I hope, but not. But anyway, following on from that, there was a couple of questions that were, what's my actual job? And then I guess people noticed that I travel around quite a lot. So that was another question. And how's the new job going? The job I had before the world of Auto Alex is still the same job I had now, but we'll get onto that. I've got those as a group of questions in a second. But so yeah, what's my actual job? I'm a vehicle integration support engineer / kind of, I basically just look after trucks that are around the world. So we are a company that build prototype trucks, and we are trying to sell them into certain markets, and occasionally they go wrong and they need fixing. So they need people on the ground to fix said trucks, or software updates, hardware updates, anything it could be. The beauty of the position I'm in, because I was a vehicle technician for 11 years, so I have a big background in, again, previous question, mechanical side of stuff, but then the last 2-3 years I've become more software, laptopy, engineering based in the automotive world, because that's the next progressive step. So yeah, that's what I do as a day job, and that's the reason I have to travel quite a lot. I spent 90 days out of the UK 2024, about 10 with Alex, but yeah, 90 with the other job. I did America, Spain, France, all sorts. So yeah, and I quite enjoy it. Probably never move to America, but yeah, all good fun. I just kind of expand the timeline of, my whole mechanical thing came from JLR, and then I left JLR to go to a active suspension company called ClearMotion. They now have contracts with NIO. If you Google them, they've got active suspension on one of their vehicles. I think they've been working with Porsche as well, because they've got active suspension in some of their vehicles. And then they were going through a bit of a financial hardship, so I thought, time to jump ship, let's move. Then I moved to, where did I go after that? I think I started restoring classic cars. I decided, let's have a bit of a change. So I went and restored classic cars for about a year. It didn't really work out. So back to engineering, went to a company called Volta Trucks. Again, electric trucks. Don't know why I ended up in truck companies, because I don't particularly do trucky things, and not particularly electrically vehicle. Yeah. But, I quite enjoy engineering and new stuff, so I guess that's how I ended up at Volta Trucks. But yeah, unfortunately they went bust 6 months after me being there, so left them, and then ended up where I am now, a company called Re-Automotive. It's an Israeli-based company, engineering centres in the UK, and yeah, selling to America, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, we've gone... There are going to be lots of tangents in this thing. That brings me nicely onto the whole Auto Alex multiverse. How did that happen? So I was at Re still. I'd known Taylor for a while before you saw me on screen. I think it was Shedfest Mark 1. Had a chat with Taylor. It's the first time I'd actually had a chat with him. But we'd known each other online for a while. We're both as geeky as each other when it comes to BMWs, engine codes and all that jazz. So, yeah, after Shedfest, Alex put a thing out saying we need people to fix some of our cars because they've got way too many. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it as a bit of fun. That's how that all began. But the bit I miss was working with people on cars. Working on cars doesn't really interest me as much as it does the people around cars. There's quite a nice sense of camaraderie dicking about with a car with other people and then as a group getting it working. This will kind of move on to the other two questions of why did I leave Auto Alex was that very reason. The messing about with cars as the mechanic very much disappeared when Alex had a baby. It's all understandable, but I wasn't in the position where I wanted to just be on my own working on the cars, because to me that's not why I did it. I can work on my own cars at home and not have to travel. Well, the other reason that I stopped doing was I went part-time at my other job 3 days a week, was with Alex 2 days a week, but it was two and a bit hours each way, twice a week, so it's like 4 hours a day, and it was just draining. I made that choice, but yeah, driving that amount of distance it's tiring. You get in at like 9 p.m. For 2 days a week, and it was just messing up my schedule. And basically we all came to an agreement. It wasn't working. We're still friends. No bad feelings, but that's what happened. So yeah, will you see me on the channel? Maybe. I might end up on some trips with them as the kind of the fixer and bodger of things that in the background to keep cars going on some of the big trips. But day to day, no, you probably won't. The printer's decided to do a calibration thing. One question did make me laugh a little bit. Tell us the secret to being better at cars than Alex and Taylor and literally everyone else. At no point do I ever think I'm better at cars or anything in life. But I think if you're going to learn anything, cars, whatever, photography, I'm trying to think what else I've learned. Aim to be the best you can at it, however that is possible. Even if you go outside of the daily realm of learning the right way to do something. I think it's weird in the UK because to work on a gas system, an electricity system in a house, you need to be certified. To work on a car, you need jack shit. Anyone can open up a garage and go, I can fix cars. And you put people's life at risk. If you mess up a braking system or anything for that system, anything for that matter, someone could die, and there's no regulation to stop that. So I think it's very important in mechanics, especially to be as good as you possibly can be and do everything as correct as possible. Going back to when I was a vehicle technician, you do everything to the book, because at the end of the day, if someone died because of one of your actions, that's the end of your life as you know it. It's gross negligence just to even think at the end of that. So yeah, I in a roundabout way, as with anything, I'm good at what I do because I've studied it and I've made mistakes and I've done stupid things, but you try and do the best you can every day, basically. That's how I can answer that. Right, I've summarised the rest of them into kind of quick fire. Diesel or petrol? Petrol. I just happen to have diesels because efficiency, but as we know, the F11 has been a bag of shit, so that's going in the bin. And then that leaves my Mini, which is petrol, my classic Mini. It leaves my Mini Clubman, which is also petrol, and then a Disco 2, TD5. It's either that or a V8, but they're all auto. So Off-roaders are better diesels. Torque, off-roading, all that jazz. So yeah, petrol, better noise, easy, done. Preferred car manufacturer to work on. Probably going to hate this, but BMW. Not just because it's, everyone online, BMW, blah, blah, blah. Yep. It's easy to get parts. They support cars, 20 years old, 30 years old, 40. You can still buy wings for an E30, for God's sake. If that was an Audi, a friend of mine's got an Audi 100, can't even get parts for anything. If it's over, 20 years old, maybe? Audi, not interested. All BMW part catalogues are available online. All workshop manuals are available online. Tools like Input, ISTA, plug-in tools for OBD, even back to like E39, all available. That's why I say BMW, because it's just, and they're built nicely, and it's just easiest to get hold of stuff. I'm trying to think of other manufacturers I've owned, but yeah, BMW. Not going to expand too much. Best car to work on summarises probably BMW E30. They're really nice to work on. E39 was really well put together, other than like some of the breather system on the engine. That's annoying as hell, but generally nice to work on. Worst car to work on. So I used to restore classic E-types as well. Some jobs on E-types are horrendously annoying. Changing, what was it? Clutch master pipes. No, clutch slave cylinder was a shit, because it was mounted upside down, and trying to bleed it was impossible. And trying to access some stuff on, like, change the rear brake discs on your Jaguar. You have to drop the rear cradle. What? So yeah, but I've worked on a lot of stuff, so it's quite hard to summarise. But I think the same applies with anything. You find the tools that are available to you, if it's service manuals or Google. We have Google now. If you've got a problem, Google it, and there'll be someone that's done it. I said this, funny enough, to a friend the other day. I probably wouldn't say I'm the best. I'm never going to say the best mechanic technician in the world. But one thing I'm very good at is Googling, and how to Google effectively to find an answer to a problem. So yeah. How did I get to becoming a mechanic? As previously, not technically a mechanic, but previously summarised. Car of mine I wish I'd kept. There's 3. BMW 30 Touring. Mentioned it on the Auto Alex podcast a while ago. Bought it for £1,800. It was a 318 manual, silver, sterling silver. Had it 3-4 years. Learner driver, drove into the back of it, wrote it off, kind of. It wasn't that bad. I should have kept it. It was like a rear quarter and a light. Insurance company rang me up, and it was something like 5-6 grand. It might be more than that they paid out. And at the time I wanted a different car, and they were like, yeah, and I bought it back for like 200 quid and then sold it to a drifter. And I should never have sold that car, because now they're in mint condition, they're 8 to 10. I mean, 325i's are probably, but put a decent engine swap in it, never mind. And I had 2 205 GTIs. I had the 1.6 as my second car, which I paid £1,000 for. That's now 6, 7, 8 grand car. And then I had a 1.9, which again I think I paid £1,000 for, which we sold for like 1,500 quid. I should never have sold that car. So yeah, those are the 2 that I should never have got rid of. Worst part of an engine to replace. Again, it depends on the manufacturer. Some engines are nice to rebuild. They're nicely put together. If you've ever taken an XK engine apart, a Jaguar engine, those are beautifully built. They're easy to work on. The time chain's easy to work on. It's easy to take. Basically, old stuff's nice to take apart, but modern stuff, it never really was designed to. Well, it kind of was designed to be taken apart. But like an N57, for example, there's just so much stuff on the engine, so many sensors and valves, and they're just fiddly. You get one of those pipes in the wrong place, and you're chasing engine problems and whatever. But yeah, it depends on the engine. Will I do your 330Ci next? No. I have too much of my own shit to fix. What car shows have I got booked? Other than Shedfest? None. I need to get some under the belt. I became a bit of a hermit last year. Wasn't very sociable. I mean, I ended up at Auto Alex stuff, but I should really go to other stuff. So if there's any car shows I should go to, chuck them in the comments. Or send me some tickets and I'll come. One car I'd keep from my collection. I'm guessing that's current collection. So yeah, I have 4 currently. Disco, Mini, Beamer for not long. It's the classic Mini all day long. I will never sell that car. I built that over 3 years-ish when I was beginning my apprenticeship. I started my apprenticeship and I did the Mini, which moves on to the next question. Tell us about the spec of the Mini. I think I saw his question. It was worded something similar to that. And why? So my classic Mini, we need to go back a bit. I had a classic Mini before that in kind of a whitey, like a white with a kind of pink hue, pearlescent. It was a 35th anniversary, MREG. I wanted a Mini the day I passed my test, but they were like, what, $1,000 maybe when I was 17, 18? But I think at the time my mum was like, no, you're having something a little bit more modern with airbags and, we're good. That's, I think, how I ended up with a Peugeot 106. But anyway, so like my 4th car was my Mini, maybe my 5th, whatever. So yeah, I bought a 94 Classic Mini, and I think that thing was haunted because I had it 6 months, maybe not even that. Lady was telling her dog off, not paying attention, rear-ended it, wrote it off the first time. So luckily the insurance let me buy it back, found a really good body shop guy, new rear valance, new boot floor, bit of paint, lovely, move on with life. Literally a week later, another lady, I was in the motorway outside lane, decided she wanted my lane without checking that little Mini was there, completely took me out, chucked me under the central reservation. I will find a picture and put it in if I can. So that wrote it off for the second time, and I was like, sod this, I am not refixing this Mini anymore. At that point it was bent A-pillar, front wing, subframe had moved. Yeah, it was proper write-off that time. But yeah, bought it back again. And at this point I was like, it's probably time to build something. So a friend of mine, Rob, he worked with another guy called Matt, I think. He had a Metro turbo engined Mini, which is what my Mini is now. So I think it was £1,000. And at that point, Metro turbo engines were 950 quid on eBay. So the shell cost me 50 quid with logbook and all that jazz. And then my white one became a parts car. Before I bought the white one, the previous owner bought a 1380 built engine for it. So it had that engine with limited slip diff in the gearbox and some other nice bits. Operated brakes, some other bits and bobs. So nicked the heart out of that, scrap that shell, done. And then the shell I bought had a few bits done, but it needed boot floor. It had 2 new floors, it had 3 or 4 outer sills on it on either side. So stripped all those off, put the correct amount of sills on, inner sill, outer sill. Front wings were original. Put that engine in myself, painted it myself, and then kind of built the other bits and bobs around it. It's got bucket seats, did just generic black carpet. It's got Alcantara headliner, A pillars, B pillars, C pillars, which they weren't normally trimmed. The colour's Yukon Grey, which is a BMC colour, so you could get a Riley Elf in that colour, but never a Mini. So it kind of looked, I kind of wanted a battleship, I don't know, stealthy kind of look. I was 22 at the time and I thought it was cool, but I still think it's cool. So the colour palette was 3 colours, grey, black and red. So things like the brake calipers are red, valve caps, little indents, seat belts are red, black seats, and then the doors are vinyled with Marvel comic vinyling. If you go back to the video where I talk about the 3 cars, you'll see it, I videoed it, but I might chuck some pictures in if I can find them. So that's how that ended up. 3 years in my mum's garage, painted it in a single garage, all the welding myself, did the welding, some of it twice because I did it did some welding at college, and by the end of that 6-8 months went, this is shit, and then redid all the stuff I'd done properly again. So yeah, it's always a learning curve, and I've kept it ever since. That was what, a while ago, 8-10 years ago. It's an MOT exempt, but I get it checked every year. I probably do 100 miles, 200 miles, taking it to shows. So yeah, this car I'll never get rid of, because it's even tattooed on my arm. Next, Money No Object car, 1967 Mustang, Eleanor. How predictable. So yeah, I'd love to drive one. I think they're beautiful. Even if it was is it B's for Build? Did a 67 body on a modern Mustang. That'd be cool. Because I imagine the old ones drive like shit. Well, I guess the new ones do as well. But, best of both worlds. Anyway. Can you be a car guy with an automatic licence even if you work on cars? I don't get the second bit of this question. But yes, you can be a car guy even if you don't drive. Everyone's allowed to enjoy cars. I think that's quite simple. My plan to do YouTube. I'm going to try. Like, I can't guarantee that it's going to be every week or every month, but I'm going to try. If I was stuck on a desert island for 7 years and could only have one daily meal, what would it be? Chicken and rice? It's got everything you need and you can jazz it up. Last question. Favourite cheese? Christmas time, potted Stilton from Sainsbury's, Tesco. Digestive biscuits, they have to be Hovis ones, and red onion chutney. Best cheese in the world. So yeah, that was Q&A. I might do another one of these at some point, but for now, we'll go back to car content.